Well, let's see if anybody is alive today. You're all pretty glued to your TV sets right now. But come on in here. We're going to watch the verdict together. Let me bring up locals so I can see you separately. We're mostly just going to be waiting for the verdict. We'll be speculating. We'll be speculating and waiting. All right. There we go. Locals. So let's read some tea leaves just for fun. We'll keep an eye on whether there's any. I'll go to audio if there's anything that actually happens. But I think when we get the jury back in the courtroom, I think there's a whole process they have to go through. So even though it's only maybe 10 or 15 minutes until they get back, I think they all have to be each of them individually asked if they have to Turley thinks guilty. So there are two possibilities. It could be that there's guilty, could be maybe guilty of misdemeanors only. I don't know if that's a possibility. Or the possibility that there was one of my audience members in the jury. Do you think one of my audience members could have flipped them to acquittal? Because I could have. I could have flipped the entire room. I'll tell you how. All right, here's the deal. There's so much wrong with this case that there isn't the slightest chance I'm going to vote to convict. You can spend as much time here as you want, but it's not going to happen. A hung jury will make things worse for the country. Whatever we do, it needs to be unanimous. I can get you to unanimous acquittal on these charges, which even you don't think are important in any way. And by the way, Trump's support will go up if you convict. And by the way, he's not going to jail under any conditions, and he's not getting out of the race. So I can give you an option. I can give you an option where we can get home for the weekend and we can help the country heal. But there's no other option because I will stay here for 6 fucking months. So it's possible that there was a strong jury member who flipped him for practical reasons. Here's what I would have said. Hey, everybody, did anybody really understand the case or what was being charged? No. Then do we need to talk about anything else? Because they had 2 weeks to tell us what the charge was, and none of us know when we came in this room. Does anybody feel comfortable convicting when we've been listening to the charges for 2 weeks and we don't know what they are? Does anybody feel comfortable with that? Does anybody think that that was proven beyond a reasonable doubt? Just raise your hand. I could have flipped that jury to acquittal in 5 minutes, no matter what they thought when they walked in the room. So, if there's somebody on the jury who's one of me, and there might be, it could be acquittal. I'm not gonna predict it. So I don't predict acquittal, but it's definitely one of the possibilities. There's no way to know from what little information we have. Well, I think they should have gone with, if the pecker doesn't fit, you must acquit. No? Trump table looks sad. Well, even crazy people will vote their own self-interest. I'll tell you one thing that the jury does know. Everybody who hates Trump knows that a guilty verdict makes him stronger at this point. Don't you think they went home and heard from their relatives? You know you're going to get him elected, right? You know you bastards are going to go in there. You're going to vote guilty. It's going to be so obviously corrupt that you're guaranteeing the biggest landslide of all time. You're not just going to get him elected. You're going to get him a, what do they call it, a mandate? Basically, this is a vote on a mandate. It looks like it's a jury trial with a verdict, but maybe it's a little bit more deciding whether it'll be a landslide or a normal victory. You know, there was really no chance whatsoever that my gardener would not start using the leaf blower directly below my window when I went live. There was really no chance that wasn't going to happen. There he is, right below my window. Do you know how many hours in the week there are? And I can say with certainty that the leaf blower would be below my window right now. I think I just caused that by hoping it didn't happen. Yeah, the microphone's pretty directional. We should be fine. I can barely hear myself, but the microphone's pretty directional. You really don't hear it? It's like there's a chainsaw in the room with me right now, and you don't hear it? So do you know why I'm up here instead of in my man cave? The reason I'm here is because this is the quiet room. Literally, it's like I'm sitting next to a fucking, hold on. So the gardener's assistant was working on the black bark scam. Have any of you ever fallen for the black bark scam? I fall for it every year. It goes like this. You know, this part of your landscape would look much better if we put some of this black bark down there. And I think, I'll bet it would. I've seen that black bark and that looks good. So I say yes. And they put that black bark in there and that looks good. The next week they come and they take their leaf blower and they remove the leaves from the black bark area, as well as a little bit of the black bark. If they do their job just right, they can sell you black bark once a year, and then every month after that, they can blow it away until you have to buy some more. Because the problem is, it really doesn't look good without the black bark. So their business model is great. So then I learned there's two kinds of bark. There's a spider bark. And I was told that the spider bark is brown, but I didn't want brown. And the other bark is black. And I thought, I like the black. I get the spider bark will stick to the ground so the leaf blower doesn't blow it away. And only this year, I finally found out that there's such a thing as black spider bark. So they're trying to blow away my black spider bark, which in theory will hold on. So anyway, do we have a verdict reach? Jury is entering the courtroom. Let's turn up Jake Tapper, see what he says.
The Weinstein jury was out for 6 days. I'm not comparing the two, but that was another high-profile
Can you hear it?
This was
not even 12 hours.
Right. This is a very complicated case. I mean, I do think it's interesting that they told the judge that they have a verdict, but then asked for additional time to fill out the form.
You agree with Karen's assessment?
I do. And I also think that they did that because, they would normally just say, we have the verdict. I haven't seen where they've asked for additional time, but I think they were looking at the clock and saying, hey, if we don't tell the judge now, he's going to send us home. We want
and the jurors and the jury alternates, there are 6 alternates as well. All 18 of them are now in the courtroom. Tim, please continue. I'm sorry.
So I think that they wanted to let the judge know, hey, don't
dismiss us for the day.
Let's get it done today. I'll tell you right now, this is the most stressful moment. And when they read this verdict, the majority of defendants that I've represented at this moment, it's so pressurized, they can't hear. Their ears shut down. And especially when you have this many counts, you're going to have one of the lawyers, taking it down.
And a complicated case.
Yeah. When they're done and they say this is the verdict, Donald Trump is going to turn to his lawyers and he's going to say, what did they say?
So the judge just turned to the jurors and said, we received a note from you signed by your jury foreperson at 4:20 p.m. 4:20. Here come the verdicts. We have the verdicts.
4:20.
Okay.
Here it comes.
Count 1 is guilty. That is a felony charge. Count 1, falsifying business records. Count 2, also guilty, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 3, guilty, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 4, guilty. That's another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 5, guilty. That's another falsifying business record in the first degree felony charge. So that is 5 felony charges that Donald Trump has been found guilty by this New York jury. We still have 29 other felony counts to go, but that is 5 guilty verdicts by this jury when it comes to felony charges of falsifying business records in the first degree in service of another crime, and that crime would be covering up the Stormy Daniels hush money payment. Count 6, guilty. So that is 6 charges. Count 7, guilty. That is another charge. Count 8, guilty. That is yet another charge. 8 out of 8, he has been found guilty. Count 9, guilty. So that is 9 out of 9. Count 10, guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 11, guilty. Another felony charge of falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 12, guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 13, guilty. Another felony charge of falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 14, guilty. Count 15, guilty. That is 15 out of 15 so far.
I assume
Count
it's going to
16.
be all of them.
Donald Trump found guilty, 16 out of 16 when it comes to falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 17, guilty. That is from a July 2017 payment to Michael Cohen. Count 18, guilty. That is another felony charge. Count 19, guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 20, guilty. Another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 21, 20 and 21, both guilty. This is for an August 2017 payment. So is count 22, also guilty. Count 23, guilty, also guilty. Donald Trump found guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 24, guilty, another felony charge. Count 25, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 26, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 27, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 28, guilty, another felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 29, guilty, felony charge, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 30, guilty, felony charge, falsifying business records. Count 31, guilty, falsifying business records in the first degree. Count 32, guilty, falsifying business records in the first degree. Only 2 counts left. Count 33, former President Donald Trump found guilty, falsifying business records. Count 34.
Are they going to handcuff him?
Guilty. Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. All 34 are felonies. Donald Trump has now been convicted of 34 different felony crimes by a jury of his peers in Manhattan. 34 felony charges for former President Donald J. Trump, convicted of 34 felony charges having to do with falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. An unbelievable moment in American history. The jurors are now being asked about their agreement with these charges, and they are responding yes. Trump has a frowned expression on his face as the verdict reading is completed. He is not moving. The former president of the United States, now a convicted felon, having been found guilty of 34 felony charges by a jury of his peers in Manhattan, New York. The court officer is asked if either party wants the jury polled. Trump attorney Todd Blanche says, yes, this is when they go around and ask each juror if they agree with what has just been read by the foreperson. The jurors all have straight faces. They are now being polled. Karen, when they do this, do they ask each juror for each charge, for each count, or would they simplify it and say to each of the 12 jurors, do you agree you convict him on all 34 charges?
In this particular instance, because it was a clean sweep of all 34,
they're going to take him into custody?
Number one, you just heard that there was just a 34 count, all guilty. Is that your verdict? And they would say, yes, sir.
So the jury, the jurors being polled right now, they all said yes or yes, it is. And they are each going, as you just said, Karen, juror number one, is this your conclusion? Yes, it is. Juror number two, is this your conclusion? Yes, it is. And the alternate jurors, Judge Merchan said, we couldn't have done this without you. He thanks all of the jurors very much for their service in this case. Trump is turning to look over the jurors as they're being polled. The former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, a convicted felon, 34 times over, found guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree by a jury of his peers in Manhattan minutes ago. Anderson?
Boy, did they fuck up.
Jake, as you said, it is a remarkable moment in American history. I'm here with Caitlin Collins and CNN's Paula Reed, who have been covering this obviously from the beginning. The judge has said that he will meet privately with all the jurors.
Let's try
question. I want to believe that Americans believe in justice, and I think that in their gut, they realize
MSNBC.
This country where the jurors, each one stands up and counts as a citizen, and
who was forced to fight and want that.
Well, how do you feel now? Turns out there was not even one patriot. There was not one patriot. Now, here's the thing you should know. If you were watching any of the news from the other networks, there were plenty of people saying the case was easily proven. And, plus the judge's instructions were kind of an FU. Here is what I would expect. It should be the biggest landslide in history. They've overreached. I didn't think it was real until right now. Did you? I was having trouble imagining it was real. But I'm pretty close to not paying my taxes. If you know what I mean. I'm pretty close to not paying my taxes. But here's what we should expect. There's going to be an appeal process. We assume it'll be overturned on appeal because it's so dirty. But whether it does or not, we can expect the DEI campaign of Joe Biden to worsen their situation in his statement tonight. Because Biden's going to be all convicted felon. Do you know what's the worst thing the Biden campaign could do? The worst, dumbest thing they could do is to put all their focus on their dirty trial. And I think that's their plan. I think they want to put all their attention on their rigged trial. So there was a rigged election. I would say it's confirmed at this point, anecdotally, and in terms of just confirmed in terms of things we know about. The confirmed things that are in the news. Yeah. So the GLOTUS will be giving his speech tonight, and I think you're going to see an amount of energy that gets unleashed, but it's going to be a very quiet energy. It's going to be a very quiet energy. And we're gonna put it into fourth gear. So I think that I'm personally at risk of going to jail at this point, because it looks like if they can get him, they can get anybody, and that seems to be the message. So I'm going to act like I'm fighting for my life. So I'm going to go pretty dark, because we're fighting a level of evil like I've never seen before. This is actually I think it's the worst day in American history in my life. Yeah, I'd say so. I would say this is the darkest moment in American history. But I'll tell you one thing that's going to happen for sure. Something's going to change. Oh, something's going to change. I don't know what. And you could probably tell that I'm doing everything I can to control my reaction. Can you tell? Can you tell that there's just a little bit more anger than I'm showing right now? And that as time goes by, it's going to get worse. And if Biden does what I think he's going to do, and he does a gloat from the White House, I think I might lose my mind. I might lose my fucking mind. And we're not at the point where, violence makes sense, but we're very close to it. We're very close to it now. And I would have thought that wasn't really a possibility either. But I think actual violence is getting close. I don't recommend it. So if any of you are thinking about trying it, don't do it, because it won't work. But I think violence is now on the table, because there'll be enough people who believe this is way beyond the pale. Now, it could be that his supporters will be smart enough to wait for the appeal, because at the moment he has a commanding advantage if we don't overreact. If we don't overreact, he's going to win 40% of the black vote, because I don't care what you say. We all see what they're doing to him. And if that doesn't make you feel some connection to him, even more than race ever could, I don't know, I'd be surprised. I'm terribly disappointed in the country. Terribly disappointed. And the last shred of respect I had for the country was that the jury system works. So they've removed my last shred of respect for my own country, I have to say. I still love all the people. You're all awesome. But I don't respect the system anymore. That's the end of it for me. That's my exit right there. That's the last time I will. I'm not even going to do a Pledge of Allegiance anymore. I'm done with that. So I'm not even going to stand for the national anthem, because the country is gone. There's nothing to stand for. Do you think I'm going to stand for that fucking flag now? Seriously, do you think I'm going to stand for the American flag after what I just watched today? Nope. I love the people, and I wish we could get our country back, but it's gone, folks. It's gone. The last thing we had protecting us was the jury system, and it's gone. Thank you, George Soros. I don't know what his security detail looks like today, but I hope he's staying safe. Turn to Fox. Let's see what Fox said.
Gorilla with both hands tied behind his back. This was a defendant for whom.
Because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for convicted felons?
Are you guys all out? You believe in the rule of law? You trust the jury? Are you
All right, the former president speaking there briefly, not taking any questions. It's been his practice as he's been speaking here at the courthouse. And remember, he's been under gag order for this trial as well, which has been, it's been stretched, I think, to its limits at some times. There have been findings by the judge that there have been violations. But the former president has spoken openly from the beginning, saying that he felt this judge had conflicts. There have been references to his daughter, the work that she does, to Alvin Bragg, and to the way that this whole thing was set in motion. Trey, you looked like you had some reaction to what he was saying there, because of course this then flipped into campaign mode, because the line will be, okay, the people get to answer. Their verdict is the one that matters November 5th. It's going to be a push to that. Now is the talking point with this over.
My guess is at some point, President Trump or his surrogates will say, perhaps I am a convicted felon. You are unconvicted felons. You have engaged in egregious conduct. It just hasn't resulted in us using the court system to go after you. I think the Biden campaign needs to be really, really careful. His son may be a convicted felon by this time next week. The other thought I had going through my mind is I was in an audience sitting by Tim Scott in South Carolina when Donald Trump went to great lengths to defend New York. Remember, candidate Ted Cruz made an unflattering reference to New York values. Andy, you may recall that. And Donald Trump went to great lengths as a candidate to defend New York. And I just think it is bitterly ironic that it wound up being a district attorney from New York who actually openly campaigned on doing what he just did. That is a disservice to the justice system. Prosecutors shouldn't care about the politics. You don't go after people, you go after crime. This new era of so-called progressive prosecutors, there's nothing progressive about them. They are defense attorneys masquerading as prosecutors, and it's going to wind up ultimately, I think it.
All right, where do we donate? Must be a Trump website for donating somewhere. Your comments still working? All right. Let's see if I can find a website for donating. I'll let you listen to this while we're doing that.
The undoing of our country.
Well, I hope that is not the case. That feels very ominous, but I know that people worry if they feel like they can't have confidence in their judicial system. We know that when it comes to Congress, when it comes to many of our institutions in Washington, polling shows us, whether it's Pew or Gallup, there have been a lot of them in recent months and years that have showed people they're worried about the underpinnings of our country, and they want to be able to trust them that no matter what their position, their politics are, that they're going to be treated fairly once they get into the court system. Now, John Yoo has a piece. I talked to him earlier in the 3 o'clock hour. He has a piece out today saying that this is already, no matter what the verdict was going to be, it's already damaged the presidency, and that folks on both sides of the aisle now have to consider that this is the way business gets done. There are some who would say, don't encourage Republicans to now go try to use the court system in the same way. But it seemed to be in an overview of John's piece that he seemed to suggest, well, if this is the way the game has played now, both sides are going to start playing it. And as Trey suggests, maybe it's a new chapter in our country and the way we do things.
Yeah, I think it's a new chapter. I feel it personally. Like, as this trial unfolded and we got more of a read on what Bragg's theory was that the judge was going to allow him to let fly, I started to think about this in terms of what's going on out there that this could be used as a precedent to attack. So, for example, this very vague vaporous idea that somehow politics, what we've always known as politics as usual, which is filled with hyperbole and often just flat out untrue statements, right? Now that's being brought into the prosecutorial realm, into the courtroom. So it occurred to me, for example, if I wanted to have a model like a very loose conspiracy against the United States, which occasionally gets invoked in federal court, where it's a deceptive scheme to prevent the government from carrying out an essential function, like having an honest election. Well, what if I decided that Joe Biden knows that when he says that it was 9% in...
All right, that's $1,000 for the President Trump campaign. I don't donate to political campaigns. But I'm donating to say fuck you to the administration, current administration. So I won't ask you to do the same because Biden economy is so bad, but well, I think what the podcasters should do is get their entire base to donate while they're on the air. That's what I think. Remember your donation limits. Yeah, $1,000 is okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's the donation site. Well, here's the thing. Let me tell you something that one of my favorite sayings by Mark Twain is that we can't tell the difference between good news and bad news. Don't assume this is bad news until you find out how much money Trump raised today. Because I got a feeling a lot of people were doing what I just did, which is before the last count is read, they're reaching for their credit card. Because it takes a lot for me to give $1,000 to a campaign because I just generally assume it's a waste of money. So, and I'm all in. I'm all in. Whatever it takes at this point. Fourth gear, it's summertime. The summertime is going to be lit. Now, I would be worried if it didn't look like it would help Trump, but I think it will. And I also think that it sort of frees me up to say that they should all be in jail. Yeah, I think what it's going to do is increase his mandate. That's what I think. All right. Wow. I'm not sure I want to hear all the commentary for everybody because there you go. The donation page just crashed. The donation page just crashed. There we go. That's the verdict, motherfuckers. You want to know what the verdict is? The verdict is going to be the $1 billion fucking he raises today because we're kind of done. And by the way, when do you see his next poll numbers? It's going to be crazy. Yeah. Now something has to be done. Elon is donating for every employee. Is that really happening? No, you can't do that. That's illegal. You can't donate for every company. Can you? That's not illegal though, right? To donate for your employees. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. Elon can match. He can match. This is thank you, JC. Yes. You know how they always say this isn't the hill to die on? This is the hill to die on. You are so right. I'm going to use that. Yeah. Yeah, this is to the death now. I don't recommend violence, but they're going to have to fucking kill me to make me stop. They might. Yeah. And we won't get to the Supreme Court before election. Just Google donate Trump campaign. It's the first thing that comes up. But is there really news about Elon? Is there some kind of news like that? Good. Wait till you see what Silicon Valley does, like the all-in podcast guys, and people are going to go nuts over this. Yeah, well, we're not going to stand for this. This is an action point. Like, I hope all it means is that people watch the drop boxes and, vote and donate and talk. But you're definitely going to create action. There will be action. And I will not be happy until several hundred Democrats are in jail forever. I don't know what that is. All right, I've got to take a call pretty soon, so I'm gonna. Dershowitz is on the war room right now. All right. Well, I think I can anticipate what everybody's going to say for the next 20 hours. It's all going to be Trump supporters saying it's a travesty, and MSNBC's saying, "Yay, it's the best thing that ever happened." All right, I got to run, and I will. Let's call this the man cave for tonight. And oh my goodness. We really did crash the donation site. Is that real? That's real, right? Like, honest to God, we crashed the donation site, not we specifically. But that's real? Can you confirm that's real? That the donation site just crashed? Cave 2? I don't know. I don't know if I'll have time for Cave 2. I'll be damned. Good. Keep trying. All right, everybody. Let's go watch our news. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. And I have to remember now to wait a few seconds so it doesn't feel like I just left. I'm just sort of stalling right now so that it doesn't feel rude, but probably I've stalled too long. Now I'll push the button.